On a historic day at Kyle Field commemorating the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the Aggies beat the hell out of Kent State. Let's grade the game. Alright, so as we go along with this video, let me know what you got the grades at for each position group, what you have different than me, what you would put things at, and why. And if you didn't get to make it to the game, check out some of the other videos. I uploaded some of the pregame entrance, the Spirit of Aggie Land, Star Spangled Banner with the flyover, all pretty cool stuff if you didn't get to go and see the game. It's a nice way to just kind of catch and see what was going on for this awesome red, white, and blue out game. So let's take a look and let's see what we got. So first position group, running backs, I think is probably the most obvious one to grade out. In my opinion, it's an A+. Spiller ran for 113, a chain 124 with a long of 63. Haynes King added 22 more. Even Crownover got in with 18. Everybody averaged over 6 yards a carry except for Haynes King. 303 total yards for an average of 7.2 overall and 2 TDs from that group. I could not be more pleased with that, and I have to give that an A+. All right, so next up is wide receivers and tight ends. And so the way I'm doing with this is I'm starting with an A. And if I see something that I question, I downgrade to a A-. A- is lower than an A for me. And then from A-, I'd be at a B+ from down there if I saw something else I didn't like. So starting off with wide receivers, I with an A. We did have a few drops. Anias did have a few drops. And so that brought me down to an A- right off the bat. There were a couple of highlights. I mean, there was the long pass to Chapman, and there were a lot of timely catches by Weidermeyer and Lane. I can't really find a reason to go down lower than an A-. This could be an A for me, but I tend to err on the lower side when I'm a little bit on the questioning side. But I can't go to an A+. Even though Anias had 100 yards on 8 receptions, Chapman 91 on 4, and Chapman averaged 22.8. He didn't get a TD, but Anias had the bulk there with 2 overall. Even Spiller got in on a few receptions. Overall, the group had 21 receptions for 292 yards for an average of 13.9. That's a pretty nice number. So I think they're definitely an A, but I'm going to keep them at an A- for the time being. So moving on to cornerbacks and linebackers, and I'm going to throw in the safeties on this one as well, but I'll put them in the cornerback stage. This one was really a toss-up for me. George had some struggles early on. He kind of seems to grow as the game goes on. Jalen Jones did a very nice job. They hardly even challenged him. You had Leon with the pick 6 and 2 interceptions overall. Huge game from him, to be quite honest. Glad to see all that hard work paying off for him. Linebackers to me look like we missed a few gaps here and there. We let that quarterback get up the middle a number of times on us and out on the edge. So really thought their play could have been better. With the interceptions and the pick 6, the defensive score from the secondary, I got to go with a B-, I think, with them. A few things to clean up, though. Again, they might be as a B or as high as a B+. Tell me what y'all think on that one. But I think for right now, with the newness of the linebackers, I'm going to stick with a C+ for the moment. I think they got some things they really want to get cleaned up, especially the next few games. And get those worked out before they feel like they've got a cohesive unit. And defensive line may be the biggest struggle for me overall in this one. We're out McKinley Jackson and Michael Clemens this go around, so it's hard to say like this is the true grade of our offensive line, but for who is playing and what we did, I feel like C+ is pretty well on. We saw a lot of people get a lot of work in. I mean, Peavy was in, of course. Leal was there. We started off with Darius Jones at D tackle. And I think Fidel Diggs on the other side. No, I'm sorry, it was Tyree Johnson, but Fidel got in quite a bit as well. We also saw Isaiah Rakes and Shamar Turner, and Shamar had a pretty good game. I haven't been able to see any official numbers on how many tackles he had, but I believe he had 1.5 sacks. And I think the team had as many as 4 on the night. So really, really good overall effort from them. The 9 tackles for loss, yeah, I think it's a total of 5 sacks. That's a pretty good total for a defensive line, but it looked like we had trouble getting off of blocks, shedding those blocks and making those tackles, up the field. We let that quarterback get up through the middle, and that's on them just as much as it may be on the linebackers as well. When they were on, they were on. I think when they were, maybe a little bit off, that's when we started seeing more problems from them. Sometimes it seemed like they gave more ground than what we are used to last year with Bobby Brown in the middle. But I expect to see that change when McKinley Jackson gets back and as Adarius grows. He hasn't had a lot of playing time yet, so he's got a lot of potential still. All right, so special teams had a pretty good night. Seth Small was 2 for 2. He had a 49-yard long, 5 for 5 on extra points, so he accounted for 11 points overall. On kickoffs and punt returns, not bad. Anaya Smith had I think 4 opportunities, got 11 yards. They punted in such a way that we weren't really going to get much on that. And you saw the way they were doing their kickoffs as well. Probably the one glaring issue we had was when Anais trailed that ball back, and I'm not real sure if he touched it or not. I guess once they make that call, there's just, how are they going to overturn that? So he knows better than that. His first game, probably a little bit of first game jitters, and I think he's wanting to do quite a bit, so I'm sure he'll get that cleaned up. I would rate that as a B- because of that play. Without that play, though, I'm probably somewhere at least at the B+, maybe A- range. So that's a pretty good position group for us last night. All right, I can't leave out the offensive line. This was, for me, was one of the big question marks of the night. How were they going to do? Left to right, Jameer Johnson, Aggie, left defensive tackle. The surprise was Bryce Foster starting at the middle at center. Had Layden Robinson at right tackle, and then Kenyon Green over on the right side, right? Kenyon looked like he did a fantastic job. He looked like he was a lot of times one-on-one all night, and it was just kind of a lockdown situation. Looks like we had a few miscommunications through the night, but overall, the run blocking looked fantastic to me. We gashed them all night long. You heard me quote the stats on the running game earlier. So we had average about 7.2 yards per attempt on the ground, which is really outstanding. And they look like they did a much better job than I thought. Even in pass pro, we let a few guys get by, don't get me wrong, and so that's why I've got them at a B+ instead of an A. It'll be interesting to see how this group starts to gel. I think they've got a lot of potential to get into the A and the A+ range as things go on. The Colorado game should be very interesting to see what they do. So got a lot of hope with this group right now, and really pleased with how they did last night. So, with that in mind, when they gave Haynes King time to throw, he did a really good job. The issue is the 3 interceptions, right? And 2 of them were tips. One of them was a bad read. I think he played a really good game overall. The issue, though, right, again, is the 3 interceptions. It's hard to get past the 3 interceptions. So that's why I'm going to give him a C+. I'm not going to get him into the B range. If he had just 1 INT, I think he's probably in the range of maybe a B, maybe a B+. He threw for 292, 8.6 yards, per per attempt. I think it works out to like 13 point yards per completion. He did throw for 2 TDs, but the overall, I mean, Zach Calzada had the one at the end, so that's 4. So I didn't really kind of factor that in. But altogether, between the offensive line and what Haynes King brought with his legs, with his accuracy as well, I mean, that he threw 2 or 3 long balls, right? It looked like he was, a little bit hyped up, overthrew a few of them, but when he dropped that one in Chapman, Stadium went crazy. So he just shy of 300 yards, and I think the C+ is pretty correct here. But y'all tell me what y'all think. I think he's got a lot of potential to get into the high B range really quickly, though. So let's see what he does for Colorado. All right, so let's grade the offense and defense and give them an overall score. As you can see, I think the offense was a B+. Wide receivers and tight ends played very well. Running backs, lights out. Offensive line, better than I kind of expected for a first game in a lot of regards, although it didn't look like it because of the start and stopping of the game. It was so frustrating. But, you look at those plays early on, and we're gashing them for 5+ yards a run. Like I said, we ran for over 300 yards, so the offensive line must have been doing something right. The black eye is the 3, well, technically 4 interceptions. I mean, Haynes King played a really good job. Did a really good job. And, he had a really good game minus those situations. So I feel like I, really got to take those into account in this situation. But I still think that overall they played at the B+ range. It's just a really good overall effort for a first game. It didn't look like it, but once I dug into the numbers, it really felt that way. I'll give them that, and I think they're gonna be getting into the A range here pretty soon as they start to gel. With the defense, I mean, you got 3 starters out, so it's hard to expect a whole lot from that that defensive line. Same from those cornerbacks. Miles Jones is out. I didn't mention that earlier, but he starts opposite of Jalen. And then McKinley and Clemens out. We'll see what happens there, if they're going to be back for Colorado. I haven't heard yet. But overall, that group has a lot of potential. But for this game, there's a few things that they're going to have to clean up. And I want to make sure I give that a realistic grade. Overall, I think a B is pretty accurate for the football team's grade against Kent State. I mean, 41-10, that kind of differential, covering the spread, which I'm so happy they did. That was one thing I did call, and part of the preview is that I did believe they were going to cover that spread. Man, it was touch and go. Very interesting end of the game, right? It was almost like we were supposed to have it and then we didn't have it. But with that kind of differential, I think a B is for sure warranted. I don't think a C would be fair with that kind of 31-point differential. But you think about the points that Kent State could have had it at the end and our slow start. That's what's probably keeping me from grading this an A. And so overall, I feel pretty good about this outing. I think it was a good first game. It was Kent State. And considering who we were playing, I think the grade's fair. I think the position grades are pretty fair. I'd really like to know what y'all have to say. Tell me what your position groups were. Did you have anything higher or lower? Where'd you have them? All right, so we'll check in with you next week. Thanks and gig 'em.